Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 99 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
And today, drumroll please, we will be sharing our season 4 Tarlos ranking. I'm decently sure this is the longest ranking we've ever done.
Yes.
The biggest we've all been in shambles because we keep remembering different scenes to put in there. So no guarantees that this episode is going to make any sense whatsoever, but we're all going to have fun.
And then ask us in a week and they'll probably have different different rankings. So, that could happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be fun. We love it. And also happy Pride Month.
Yay, happy Pride.
I got to attend my first Pride parade on the 3rd, and I was actually in the Pride parade. So I was just trying to be my very queer self, and it was the best thing ever. So I feel like, Tarlos ranking in Pride Month is literally the best thing.
Yeah. I know. We totally planned this. Just saying.
Totally planned this.
Yeah,
subconsciously.
I kept missing the parades every single time I go to somewhere else, like on my road trip, like really every single time. Like, come on.
There's so much fun.
I know. I want to go to one so bad.
I will get to one eventually.
I know. Same.
Yeah. If nothing else, I'm going to drag you guys down here for next year's.
Yes.
Down here / across here. Depending.
Hey, with all the business stuff going on there, hey, by next year I could be living on the East Coast. I don't know.
Yeah,
I will drag you guys down and I'll have you guys march with me. Okay,
I would gladly accept that.
Hell yeah. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way.
Yeah.
With all the queerness we can muster, and I've got plenty for all of us, we're going to go into our ranking. Because trust me, otherwise we're going to be here all night.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
We can manage.
Oh, we could easily.
Just need some caffeine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we have 25 scenes to rank, and just because it's in 25 doesn't mean we hate it or we don't like it. It just means that's where it falls today or any day.
Yes.
So 25 is like the low, and then obviously 1 is like the top best scene of the season. So,
and if you're anything like any of us, the middle, it just simply got slapped in there because we didn't know where else to put it.
Right. That was elimination.
Yeah. And also just trying to figure out where the heck this worked. So for my answers, I would definitely have them more organized on a different day, but that day is not today. So we're going to have to deal with what I did.
Yeah. So 25, my 25 is the scene in 401 where Carlos shows up at the station and tells TK about his secret, the dreaded scene, because literally everyone had been like saying, oh, I think this is gonna happen, I think this is gonna happen, for literally like weeks, if not months. So I was
and we were like, stop projecting, and then it happened.
And what we thought, it's just funny because I remember the time, because a week prior we were like, this would never happen, and then it happens. It was a good scene. Like, it definitely, like, it was good because we saw TK's progression with he didn't run out when he was told this news, and it was a good scene. But like, I'm also like, I don't know, it doesn't like rank high for me. It's there, it happened. I like the progression that we got throughout the season. Like, ending when this first storyline first came up, I was like, okay, it was so stupid. But ending the season, I'm like, okay, that was actually good. Like, it actually gave us so much, and I like it. And it was like a good journey. But I'm not gonna rank it high. I'm just not.
So for me, for actually similar reasons, I have the TK and Carlos getting ready for Iris to come over and TK meeting her. For me, okay, this just has a lot to do with the storyline. I love the progression it had. I love that it held a lot of growth and showed how strong their relationship is for TK and Carlos. However, just overall, I didn't love the marriage/annulment idea. I was adamantly against it from the very beginning, and I didn't really like Iris all that much. There were scenes where I liked her. It grew on me at times, and this scene was like a big holder of like my wariness about her spilling all over. I just had some issues with this scene. It was a good scene. Like, nothing on this list was a bad scene for me. Just this one ranks lower simply because of mixed feelings around it.
Yeah, for me, I also said that when Carlos shows up at the 126 to see TK, and tell him about the secret. For much like what Katie said, it was been hinted at, and even with what Grace said too about like storyline, and I was happy to see TK's growth in not running away, but I was really bummed that they had to bring something up like this, because I feel like it was a very stereotypical move, and I just think there's other things they could have done. So for me, it kind of ranks kind of low. Plus it was like a really like tough time for them, and I'm like, I don't need them to have any more tough times.
I know. Tell me about it.
I just had a thought occur about that scene, and please someone remind me that I had a thought when we get to my ranking on this scene, because I know my brain's gonna
Right.
So 24, mine is Tarlos showing off their tuxes. I actually just rewatched the scene yesterday because I do this thing where like each episode I'll share like my top 5 favorite scenes from each episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally just rewatched it yesterday because I need to get back to doing that. And I was like, okay, this is a cute scene. I like seeing them in their tuxes. It's adorable. But like, I'm not gonna lie, Owen totally ruined this scene because he was just like, this is not it. Like, what the and I'm like, what the heck, Owen? Like, why? And but my favorite part is at the end of the scene, Carlos, like, Owen's like, this is gonna be like the best, like this is gonna be like a crazy event or something like that. And Carlos is like, somebody already is.
Yeah.
And like the sass, like I that's what makes me like love that. But like it's just here because like it wasn't like a huge moment, and like it kind of like, Owen, why did you have to rain on the parade? Literally.
Yeah, mine was exact same one, showing off the tuxes. Like, obviously we love seeing our boys in the tux. They looked so good. But basically the same thing Katie said, Ellen kind of spoiled the scene, a little too self-absorbed in it. And just overall, like, it was a really cute scene, but it didn't necessarily rank higher than a lot of other scenes for me. So it was already ranking lower, and then like the Owen spoiling it kind of knocked it down much further. So good scene, just it's here, 24.
Yeah. Mine actually was when in 418 when TK finds Carlos not in bed and goes out to comfort him, and it's kind of when they decide to postpone the wedding. I loved it. I love that TK was like, no, we're not going to say cancel, because we're not canceling it. We're just postponing it. So I loved that, but I hate that we had to come to that, But Carlos also needed a break. Like, he was not mentally there yet. And so I was glad for TK. Again, TK's growth. So awesome. But just this is where it landed for me.
Yeah. So 23. Mine's in 408 when they're Tarlos, and then obviously Andrea and Owen, they're all at the florist and they're totally going overboard. And I love the Tarlos part of this, but I also couldn't remember that I added this, and I was like, I don't know. I just put it here because I was like, okay, this isn't very Tarlos heavy. It's kind of like about the parents in sense, because it's like them going overboard, and then like TK and Carlos being like, what the heck is happening, and then like them being like, okay, this is enough, and like putting an end to it. So like, yay for them putting the end of it. But I was also like, I watched this and I'm like, oh my god, the scene, it's just it's too much. But like, I love the chaos, but I'm also like, this is a lot.
Yeah. So for me, mine was in 418 when TK finds Carlos going like the dark detective and telling him that, he's there for him through his grieving, and encourages him to reach out to Detective Washington if he doesn't trust the Rangers. Not saying this is not a really good scene, because it is a good scene. And it's a really cute Tarlos scene because it's TK looking out for Carlos, trying to help him in the most constructive way he can. It's not actually Tarlos that puts the scene lower for me. It's just simply my own uneasiness at the time and residual about Carlos going dark detective, because I felt like it was treading a very fine line. We hear enough in reality about road cops,
Right.
Did not really there was a lot of, I won't say good intention, but moral intention behind what he was doing, but it still gave me a lot of anxiety, and I don't know. Carlos is just generally such a gentle person that I think it was just really scary to see him so cold.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the scenes for me, at least in my memory, that shows it this much than the actual scene, like in the garage and everything. So it goes a little bit lower simply because of that.
I get that. Mine for this number was actually in 408 when TK and Carlos show off their tuxes. I feel like you guys were kind of hit it on the head with Owen definitely putting his 2 cents in and kind of ruining it. But I also felt like it was kind of ruining the special moment of seeing it in the actual wedding.
Oh yeah,
for me,
that too.
I'm like, that's kind of like a big thing for brides and grooms, is to see them for the first time at the ceremony. And so to have them fully dressed in what they're wearing, I was like, yeah, it's cute. I was so happy for them. And I'm like, okay, this is like actually happening. But I'm like, I feel like it was kind of stealing the thunder. And then Owen definitely getting in there and being like, this thing is going to be off the chains or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So 22. Mine was in 408 when TK and Carlos, and like when they go see Mama Maria's and she helps them take control of the wedding, but really she just gets more involved, more down the rabbit hole with Owen.
Right.
I kind of forgot I added this too, and I was like, okay. But I was like, okay, this has to go like lower just for the fact that like not entirely about Tarlos. I mean, they're there. It's not really fully, but like it counts. But I'm also like, I don't know. I don't have like strong feelings on it just because it's like it's Tarlos. It definitely is, but it's not like full on like any of our other scenes. It's just here.
Mine was in 409, TK and Carlos in the hospital waiting room. TK being asleep on Carlos. I don't know. It wasn't a huge scene. It wasn't even really much of a scene. It was just a moment in a scene, which I thought was really adorable. And it's here just because it's precious. But there's not really much about it that makes it stand out more than a lot of the other scenes. So it's kind of sitting here for me as, yay, Tarlos. But also there's a lot of other stuff going on at the time.
Right. Yeah. I can hear that. For me, it was 402's TK and Carlos getting ready for Iris to come over and TK meeting her. I was like super happy to see like TK meeting somebody in Carlos's life that wasn't his parents, but I was really, and again, proud of TK for how he was handling this whole situation, but also like just really bummed that it had to come to like a forced connection. Like you have to meet her because of this. And I didn't like that. Yeah, and I could say a lot about it. You guys said quite a bit earlier, so I'm just not gonna add any more because I'll probably start rambling.
So 21. It's the same scene. Which I was like, wait, I just started scrolling back because I was like, wait, where did I put this? And then I was like, oh, here it is. Because like I was like, wait, did I forget one? And there's always that paranoia that you're gonna forget one, even though I literally have a numbered list of where I put mine. But like, even so, but yeah. I don't know. I almost placed this lower. Like I almost placed this in 24, but I didn't. I don't know. Like I liked it because there was that prep where, Carlos was like, it's gonna be okay. Like, don't freak out, like that kind of thing, because he knows TK and he knows what could go wrong. And I don't know. It was just it was also a weird scene. Like though I like paying attention to like them in the scene and see like Carlos comfort TK because he knows that like Iris has like basically no filter and like she's just very blunt and like that can also be like not great for people. So I don't know, it's
especially for people like TK who already have some insecurities.
Right. Exactly.
I'm actually like the same in that. Like I like people who are honest, but blunt and I don't often go along well.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Even though sometimes I can be the blunt one, but it depends how pissed off I am in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Carlos was like, it's not malicious. Like, I promise. Like, I don't know. It was a scene. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, it's really sad. So for me, mine was in 408, TK and Carlos having tacos at the station. Honestly, it was a cute scene. And it's here because it was a cute scene and I loved that, but not a lot about the scene actually really sticks out that far in my mind. So that's kind of where it's sitting right here. It was just I love anything they do together. Okay, I'm a complete Sal, so that's why it's here. That's why we're all here.
Amen. Yeah. For me, and Katie, I think I know what happened. So since there was an added one after I finished the ranking, I had to move some of mine up. So you and I had a lot of similar ones, like same ones. And then I moved mine backwards because I wanted to add that scene that you'd added in a little bit later. So I think that's what it happened, because I was like,
that's
Katie
funny.
and I are more even, but anyways.
Oh my God, ours were like so even.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, they still are.
Yeah.
And then there's me just throwing in random scenes here and there.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So for this one, I said it was when TK finds Carlos going dark detective. I'd like to think that Carlos is a stronger cop and like more like, because he has a really good head on his shoulders. So it's really hard to see Carlos going dark detective like that. I know why. And I know when you're in your grief, you can like, you're not yourself. So I can give him a little bit of a pass, but TK was really concerned about him. And Carlos was just not having any of it. And like, even when TK said, you go to see Detective Washington, and Carlos just like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'm like, no, you're not gonna.
We all know him.
Yeah. So it was just really hard to see that. And, even later in the episode, like him getting like really intense, like, amen, Rafa is freaking awesome. And like, he can totally do acting like with anything. But yeah, this is just a really hard scene for me.
Yeah, it was tough to see Carlos in that light.
Yeah.
And that's actually my next scene for 20. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Like I low-key like Carlos going a little dark, like I don't know, like it's just interesting to see. And like I understand his intentions and I understand what he's going through. Like I can see why he would go there going through that. I think I would probably do a similar thing. This is why I get so mad when people literally drag Carlos for literally going there. And I'm like, did your father get murdered? Did you lose somebody in that light? Like, don't judge it. You haven't been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, let's not go there. Yeah, like it's understandable. And like, it's I don't know, like it was a journey seeing that. This is only like the beginning, but like you're watching this and you're like, yeah, he says he's gonna get sleep, but you damn know what he's gonna do.
Oh yeah.
So it was good.
Because we kind of saw it in earlier in the season when he was looking for Iris.
Yeah, that's where he didn't go. That was very. If you rewatch those scenes, some people are like, but like they're actually pretty tame. And also, if you haven't been through that, then you can't judge it.
Exactly.
Yeah. We all have a breaking point.
Yep,
exactly.
And he found his. So for me, mine was in 401, and this is the Carlos showing up at the 1.6 CTK. I'm telling him a secret. So this is where I placed it. Here's the thing, and this ties in the fact that I don't necessarily love the storyline, and I hated this scene. The only reason I have anything against this scene really is because it confirmed a storyline that I hated the very thought of. We all did not like this storyline.
Right.
At least any mention of it, we were all like, this isn't going to happen. And then we were like, oh, fuck, this happened. But there were two things I loved in here. Obviously, as you guys said earlier, we saw TK's growth, his maturity. We're like, he didn't run out, he stuck by. Yeah. But I'd like to highlight something else. We saw Carlos's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, this was a scene where he wasn't trying to be, or he was trying, but miserably failing. And no judgment on him, because he thought this could blow his entire engagement up. And just watching them handle this, like, honestly, I was going to say mature adults, but even a lot of mature adults I know couldn't get past something like this. So, like, the soulmates that they are, really, really was wonderful. And I remember I was going to say something here about this storyline in general. And part of the reason, and the only reason I'm bringing this up right now, it's just that, and because we're in Pride, part of the reason I'm saying it, the idea of the, like, a marriage to keep your identity hidden feels like a very outdated idea, or very not United States-ish, because I think we're going on about 7 years of it being fully federally legalized, gay marriage, because I believe it was legalized in 2015. Other
Yeah.
countries around the world have had it legal since way before now.
Right.
So in this day and age, it seems like an antiquated idea. I don't know if that's quite the right term, but something someone would have to.
Yeah.
But I think that the storyline feels out of place. But I think it does highlight on something that a lot of gay people have had to face and have had to do currently and in the past.
Right.
So this was a hard-hitting scene
Right.
as well, but you know, it's not further up because there are other things I want to put there, but I really actually do have a soft spot for this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Rant over.
No, I get what you're saying. For me in this ranking number, I was is 408 when Tarlos and the parents are at the florist, and it was obvious to see that their hope of Andrea taking reins from Owen was fully backfiring as she was taking into things. And yeah, it definitely wasn't a full-on Tarlos scene, but it was like I could see where Carlos was trying to like, oh, isn't this what we're supposed to be doing, Mom? And they were trying to pull her, but then she was getting distracted by all the fun stuff to do, and yeah, it's where it landed for me. Yeah.
Right. I rewatched that scene and I'm like, those flowers are ugly.
Yeah.
I would have never picked that if any of my mom had suggested those, I would have been offended. I would have been like, are you kidding? Which my mom would never.
Owen's cake turned her.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I'm gonna go into those. I'm gonna go for that. Yeah, for sure. So then 19 is the 408 cake tasting scene, which is really cute. I really liked it, even with all the parent like takeover stuff. I think it was really cute. I especially love when they realize the parents are literally like they brought Andrea to literally like rein Owen in, and literally that did the complete opposite. Like she was like, "Ooh, planning the wedding? Yeah, I'm in." And like I love her. Like I love her for it, but I'm also like, what's happening? And I don't know. The cake tasting was cute, and I just especially love when the parents are really taking over and they're both like, "What the hell just happened?" And Carlos being like our worst nightmare.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I love it.
Yeah, mine was the same scene. Basically all that Katie just said. It was a cute scene. Am I the only one who just sat there watching it being like, I really want to taste those cakes?
I wanted to know what they tasted like because the stuff that was in it sounded disgusting.
Like, I'm sorry, I need to have a cake tasting now. Can we please have this?
I'll taste cakes for literally no reason.
Okay.
Wait, I already do that. I just
hear me
realized I
out.
already do that.
That's fair. You work at a bake.
Yeah, I do. So yeah. Oh yeah. That's something that does happen.
Hear me out. Fox, can we have a 911 Star convention and there's just a stand for the cake tasting?
Can
we do that?
It. Yes.
But yeah, that's where it is.
For me here, I was a little different. I said the TK and Carlos night scene, so you don't think I'm a hot mess, in 402. It was cute, because I love what Carlos said after that, of being like, you are a hot mess, but you're my hot mess. And I was like, okay, so way to support him, but also like, yeah, you are, but I still love you. And I wish he hadn't have gotten a phone call and interrupted that, because it kind of ruined some of the scenes, which is why it's further down for me, but it is what it is. I liked it. It was a good scene. We're getting to some of the ones that I'm like more passionate about. I put them where they are, but like, it's so hard with these scenes. There's so many good ones.
I know, and there's like scenes there's scenes that like involve TK or Carlos, and I'm like, okay, if this was a Carlos scene, I would rank this so high.
Right.
Like there's just reasons like for things, but yeah. So 18. Mine was the 412 when they had like the people that could potentially officiate their wedding like come over. Okay, I put this here because I was like, okay, like I like how the like TK and Carlos were in that scene. Like I like how like when they're like listening to some of these people, even the ones that you're like, and they were kind of like, they were like sitting so close together, like adorable. We love it. But I was also like, I didn't like the officiants. Like there was a couple that I definitely liked, but I was just definitely glad they didn't go with any of these people because um yeah, it was something. It was something, but like I didn't love it. Like it was cool to see because obviously they were getting married and like, you have to have somebody officiate your wedding. And I liked that they did this to show like the wedding process. Like they really gave us a full season of that. But like I was like, I don't love this.
Yeah, mine was 408, Tarlos and Parents at the Florist. And honestly, I just love this because Tarlos just collectively lost their they lost their patience. They were like, okay, they were the definition of breaking point snapping. They're like, oh, we're not doing this. We are done. Parents gonna fuck in the back seat. They were just, half of me was just expecting the whole thing to have, because of how Andrea and Owen teamed up. Half of me was expecting them to have just worked together to get them to the point where they stood up for themselves.
Yeah.
And also, I think it would be a great storyline if they just been like, well, finally, we had this planned next.
Right.
It would have been cute. But as it was.
The funniest thing about that whole situation is like obviously the episode was called Control Freaks. Okay, so like TK was raised by a control freak and now he's married to a control freak. So you really not went into the TK boy.
Yeah.
You see what you know.
That's good. For mine, I actually said the cake tasting in 408. I didn't dislike it, and I'm all for cake, but it was so it had funny elements to it. Like Owen's trying to like say, "Oh well, it's got turnips or something in it," and I'm like, "Oh my god, yuck!"
That cannot be. That's weird.
And I. Part of me was like, is Owen purposely doing this just to irritate the snot out of these guys? And I was like,
it wouldn't surprise me.
No, and especially when Carlos is like, oh, we're going to use the same panderia that we used for my sister's quinceañeras. And it was like, no. And I'm like, oh, yeah. It was a cute scene, but I'm glad TK and Carlos are both like, oh, no, we're in trouble.
They're like, oh, no, we made a worse monster.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So 17, mine was in 409 when they're at Marjan's welcome home party. That wasn't really a welcome home party in the end. And then they realized and they were like, they had that moment where they were like, oh, we really dodged a bullet because of how crazy Owen was going at that.
Oh yeah, the canapes, all that drama.
We really dodged a bullet, in the shape of a canapé. I really loved this scene, and it was really cute. Like, it was adorable, and I love it. But like, it was such a small moment compared to like other scenes. Like, it was cute to see them have a moment, especially in this episode that wasn't really about them at all. And stuff. So like it was cute to even get like just a tiny moment. I know when like watching these episodes live, like I know everyone was saying that like, "Ooh, we got a little Tarlos, yay!" That's always the moment, though.
For me, it was the same scene. It's here mostly because I just didn't know where else to put it. It was just one of those scenes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Katie mostly got it. I don't really have much else to add. But, it's just one of those little scenes where it's like, okay, love it, Carlos, yay. And yes, you in fact did dodge a freaking bullet, sirs.
Yes. Yeah, for mine, I actually said this was when TK and Carlos are getting ready to meet the people who might officiate their wedding. I thought it was cool how they brought in multiple different pastors and officiants. So they weren't just like showing that they're aiming for like one specific one. I was kind of discouraged to see like when TK's like, oh no, we've talked about everything. And then like kids hadn't come up and I'm like, oh no, here's another point of contention here. And I was not surprised that the rabbi was like, okay, we'll just have to schedule your conversion. And Carlos is like, my what?
My what?
Like, conversion to Judaism. I'm like, oh
really?
yeah, that's right, a thing. Years ago, I used to write fan fiction for another group or fandom, and the two characters in my stories were Jewish, so I did a lot of research. And I have a friend that converted to Judaism, so I'm like, I get it, like on that level, but I'm like also not like, no, these guys are there themselves, like they're not going to change, and they shouldn't have to get married. So that's where this landed. Again, we're in the middle now, so like anything's possible with where these things land.
For real though. Yeah, so 16 for me is the 411 Tarlos on the call. This is like the call with the lady that gets hit by the bow and arrow by those kids. And like they have that like moment like before like, you know, TK obviously gets in the ambulance and stuff. And like it was a cute moment, and like obviously it paralleled like, you know, like you know, the pilot and like obviously other calls that they've been on together. And it was cute, but it wasn't like anything to like be like, oh my god, this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was the same one. For one thing, that was just a crazy episode. Certainly a crazy call. And you know, anytime we get to see Carlos on call together, it's just a special one. I don't know, it just makes me very happy. Because I think EJ said, you know, in the middle, anything's possible.
Right.
Scenes where this ended up for me.
Yeah. Right. And mine at this one is 408, TK and Carlos and Andrea and the whole like basically begging her to take over control of the wedding. And she's like, and now you come to me to help plan my son's wedding. Yeah. I love the scene. I'm glad they finally did go to her and, you know, realize that she needed, or like they needed help outside of what they were currently getting. But yeah. I love Andrea, and I'm starting to piece together that I'm like, okay, there was not a lot of Gabriel in this season. And I was like, I bet they did that on purpose.
Probably. Yeah, same. So 15. For me, that was the 418. TK, when TK finds Carlos not in bed, and like this is when the postponing the wedding comes up, and like TK's comforting him. This like I was like, I have to put this somewhere in the middle because I really like this, and the way like TK's like, you know, I could rub your back, as if that's not something he does every time Carlos is upset and they're in bed. And I'm like, that literally melts my heart like so much. And like it was, I don't like seeing Carlos sad. Like Carlos sad eyes go away.
Right.
Like, makes me want to cry. But like it was such a beautiful scene, even with the sadness.
Yeah. Mine was 404. TK saves Carlos, and they're after seen outside the ambulance. What's not to love here? I mean, just for one thing, getting my wish, even though it kind of bit us in the ass, of seeing, you know, Carlos on the gurney instead of TK for once. You know, see the roles a little switch. That was great. Always gotta love that. And then just their tenderness and his concern for Carlos, and yeah, as I said, what's not to love? It's here because other scenes just rank higher.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, any other given day of the week, it probably would actually rank higher than it actually is. So gotta love it.
Yeah. So my ranking at this one was the TK and Carlos talking about kids after they met all the officiants and that had come up, and they had the miscommunication and lack of communication, I guess you could say, on that in 412. It's here because it's here. It's just in the middle. I'm glad they did finally have the conversation and it wasn't just assumed there was a conversation off screen. So I'm glad we did get to see something kind of serious, because I think a lot of people and a lot of fans are like expecting like next season for them to have kids, and it's not always the plan for people. Some people choose not to have children. That's okay. And I'm glad that TK supported Carlos's choice. I'm glad that Carlos was honest with TK, but it is what it is, and that's where it landed.
Yeah. So 14, mine's the same exact scene. I liked that it came up because, like, I don't know, I didn't really think much about this, like this scenario coming up. I didn't really think, but I was like glad that it was brought up just for the fact of like, oh, have we talked about this? Oh, like, has this happened? And like, what's their opinions? And like, I don't know if I was surprised by their opinions, but like I also understood it after hearing like Carlos talk. But like, yeah, I know like everyone has been talking about like guys, I'm a little surprised that we got a wedding when we did. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if you had told me in season 1 that by season 4 they would be married, I would have told you like you're lying. That's not gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
I am glad it worked out this way, but like I didn't necessarily have, I guess I just didn't have faith that they would actually give it to us. Like, obviously I think it was like about damn time, like being the way that we were like going. But like, and then I also like everyone else, like the second they get engaged, just like, oh my god, they're gonna have kids. I'm like, no, they're not right now.
Right.
And
that
like,
stuff happens a little later, if it happens at all.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's going to happen, but like people are like, oh my god, he'll realize next season. I'm like, no, I don't. Like a couple seasons from now, maybe it'll definitely happen, like in the series, but like not anytime soon. But like I was glad that they had this conversation, especially on screen, because there's several conversations they put off screen that I was just like, really? So I'm at least happy we got this. I'll take what we can get.
So I actually did a switcheroo on mine. I had a different scene in the slot, and I was thinking about them, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually going to switch them around because my brain actually swapped out what this one was about with a different scene. So we'd love that for me. So mine is actually the exact same one. The kids talk, and interesting scene. I don't necessarily like that they had it this late. I feel like this was a scene that they realized they hadn't had yet.
Yeah.
And hurriedly shoved in at the earliest opportunity. So, because I understand all relationships are different, but I also know that kids talk tends to be one of the earlier conversations you have in a serious relationship, or at least it should be, because that tends to be a deal breaker for most people.
Yeah.
So I think I just battle with finding it a little unrealistic or a little, I don't know, fondly stupid that they didn't have this earlier. I am with you guys, though, that I'm glad they had this on screen and did just allude to it being like something they talked about before. I find all the people saying that he'll realize next season is a very culturally normative way of thinking. Actually a very heteronormative way of thinking for a gay couple, which is very interesting. Many couples, gay, straight, or any of the above, any of the other, don't want kids.
Right.
Clearly, a lot of gay couples biologically cannot have children themselves.
Right.
Many have surrogacy or adoption as options. Honestly, a lot of them help take care of kids that heteronormative parents already got rid of. But that doesn't mean all of them want kids. And that doesn't mean they have to have kids.
Right.
I think it's underestimated exactly how much just one child changes to people's entire lives.
Yeah.
So children are not a light decision. And as much as I would absolutely love to see them with a child, like I will melt at the sight of them holding babies. We already melted at the sight of them holding Jonah. It's also perfectly okay if they never want children. Yeah. So just saying that because I'm passionate about that.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, it is a very narrow mind of thinking to assume. And there's people like me who have a chronic illness and may not be able to have children. And now I'm getting to an age where it's going to be high risk if I try to have children. So even me being a straight woman, the chance of me having children, it's going to be slim unless I marry someone who already has kids, or we discuss that we're not going to have kids, or we decide we're going to adopt, and there's options out there. But also it's been really hard for people who have been in the community to adopt children up until recently. Like a lot of states made it illegal for a long time too. And some states are still trying to make it illegal. So I think a lot of people in the community grew up just assuming they'd never have kids. So that when that opportunity comes up, they're like, oh, I can have kids. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about there. For my ranking, since I did that last one, I did the TK and Carlos dancing at the wedding and TK having Tommy sing a song to Carlos. That was Gwen's favorite song. It was beautiful. Tommy has an awesome voice. It was great to see them dancing. It definitely paralleled season 1, the pilot, seeing them dance together for the first time. I love that. But there was so many more scenes that are so much higher for me. So this is where it landed. I keep saying that, but that's kind of how it is right now.
It literally is, especially when you're in the smack dab middle. It's just this is where it landed. I don't know what to tell you. So 13, mine was 412 when Carlos surprised his TK with Lou too. Ew. I like this scene, but I was just seriously, we have another lizard. I was watch him go missing and then they never find him, which honestly I thought was going to happen.
Right.
I don't know. It's really cute and I like the conversation they have and it was important and I'm just glad they weren't married and they had this conversation. Don't this happens because we have a family friend that his first marriage, they never talked about kids and then she didn't want kids, so they literally got a divorce. Can you imagine that? So at least they were just engaged.
Right.
And at least they both were if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It was cute and I was just oh, okay, it's cute. I Carlos is just very acts of service and I literally stand by that and I love that he did this.
For me, it was 412. TK and Carlos came ready to meet the people who could officiate. I actually really found this scene very funny because they had all sorts of different people that they were interviewing. I actually liked the woman priest or the woman officiant.
Oh yeah, same.
I liked the rabbi too up until he was oh, conversion. I'm oh right, that is a thing, isn't it? Much like Catholicism usually, but they were talking to a whole bunch of different people and I just found it was actually just a comedy scene for me mostly.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And so it ranked about here just simply because I enjoyed it. Obviously we got the whole kids trip and then I'm okay, and now there's secondhand embarrassment, but until then it's all good.
In my rank here I put Carlos going home in 418 after Owen basically talked him off a ledge, and Carlos proposing to TK to get married that Saturday if he was still free. I thought it was very sweet and very powerful for Carlos, realizing that all the crazy things in his life, there's one constant, and it's TK, and that waiting is pointless. So I'm glad that he came around, and that's why I was I think that's why this ranks a lot higher for me than the other scene where they decide to postpone it, just because I knew that Carlos needed time. So I'm I understood. It was still kind of a bummer, but my heart got happy when like he comes back and like TK's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes, I'm sure." Yeah, so that's how that's how I look at it.
Yeah. So number 12 is 416. TK and Carlos find out that they're in the clear for the Huntingtons. I just want to mention that like we all put this the same one.
Yes.
Just to put that out there, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
I liked this scene. It's like I'm usually like I really like the scenes in this episode. I think they're really like super important, especially for like them. It actually made a lot of sense when you watch like obviously the finale, like the 2-hour finale, and then you think about these scenes. There was just like so much that was gonna come up in like a different way that was showed. So it's kind of interesting thinking about that. But like, I don't know, this scene, like, it was great because it was like, oh yeah, like we're in the clear, like this is great. And like then them like wanting to celebrate, but then like TK's like, but wait. And then like they have a moment and I'm like, oh my god, that's adorable. And like I love this for them. Like that's all I really have to say about that.
Yeah.
Again, we all have the same one.
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Katie encompassed it pretty well. It was just a very sweet moment. It's just the relief that they both had. And we have the actual scene where they're like worried about it. I think all of us had it listed later on. And so I'll say more about it then, but it's just a precious scene.
What you guys said, I love that we all had it in the same spot. That's cool. And you know, TK definitely had a lot of fears, and I understand that. I mean, they both did, and I can understand like TK not wanting to saddle Carlos with, you know, some major diagnosis, especially as severe as Huntington's disease. But I also, I know Carlos was like, so we'll talk more about the scene later. But yeah, this one was good. I'm glad that they got the relief and were able to relax and then like enjoy the rest of the planning of the wedding, because that was really making TK wonder, like, do I postpone the wedding? Do I like not have a wedding? Do I let Carlos off the hook? And yeah, so that's, I'm glad they didn't have to like face that bridge. So.
Right. Yeah. So number 11. This for me was 418 when Carlos was watching like that old VHS. He's trying to figure out how to hook it up on the TV. And we see baby Carlos, which is super cute. I like this scene, and it was like TK coming home, but it was literally Tarlos for like 2 seconds, and then it was more focused on Carlos. So like I think if this was a Carlos scene, it would be ranked like pretty high. And it was adorable to see, especially being like, okay, if this is like Gabriel Carlos scene, that could be like in the top 2, probably. Like it was really cute, but like it's not really super Tarlos heavy, but it's still a Tarlos scene in a sense. I love it.
Yeah. Mine was 402, the TK and Carlos night scene. So you don't think I'm hot mess scene. And so this was actually the one that I switched out with the other scene previously. And I just find this really sweet because Iris pushed on a lot of TK's insecurities. One of my main gripes with her. And it essentially called him a project and hot mess, that kind of thing. And I love them. Carlos doing some comforting, TK being open about, that his insecurities being reared up. I'd be like, so you don't think I'm a hot mess? It's just, I don't know. It was just a precious scene. Doesn't quite make it into the top 10, but it's a good one.
For me, it didn't quite make it in the top 10, but it's still an amazing scene. Seeing Carlos and TK at the station having lunch together, sharing tacos. I thought that was cute. I think at some point still had been released of this picture of them, and they were like, oh my god, Carlos's box says TK on it. And I was like, and then we see the scene and they switched at some point, and I was like, okay, that's really cute. But it was good to see, like, I'm sure that happens a lot with couples who are firefighter paramedics or in the police department. Like they're, relatives will stop by, and just that they're first responders. And this past weekend, I was able to attend a fireman's breakfast. And it was really cool to just see the police coming to support the fire department, because there's always that animosity that you hear about, like the fire and police are always against each other. But then to see something like that in a small community was really cool. So yeah, it was just a cute scene, and I'm glad we get to see TK and Carlos at work, but like on lunch and having downtime together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So top 10.
Whoop.
Yay. So mine for 10 was the 404 when TK saves Carlos and like this ambulance scene. I really liked this, and I knew this had to be in the top 10 because obviously this was such like a big moment, because obviously Carlos is getting hurt. Yeah, I know some people are gonna hate I said that, but like, it was about damn time TK wasn't getting hurt, like, finally. So that's why. And it was a really good episode. Like, I love that episode. Like, it is so good just for like Rafa, even like just for the Carlos content. Like, it's so amazing. And we got like so much, even if you didn't necessarily, we got like so much through Carlos's point of view that I really liked. And I liked TK having to save Carlos. Like, it was just great. And Gabriel was also there, which is great.
Yes.
Like, we loved it. And I really, really like this moment.
So for me, mine was 412 when Carlos surprises TK with Lou 2.0. I just found this really cute. That he was basically like, okay, don't know if I want a human child, but here, have a child. But you can. It's a lizard child, and I'm scared to death of it. But like,
I'm never sleeping again, am I?
Never sleeping.
Oh yeah, there's that.
I love that line, and I love the talk that came with this, and I love, I just thought it really cute. So here's where it lands. That's my 10.
Yeah. So my 10 is Tarlos on a call in 411. We've gotten them on calls before, but they often don't interact because TK's focused on the patient or Carlos is dealing with family members. But to see them kind of working together in certain parts of this, and then at the end they get, talking to each other, and there was a little bit of banter, and I think 201 about the whole, like, firefighters are a smug bunch. And then, there's still some banter, but it's not always. So it's just nice to see them working together and kind of on the same calls. Because I know there's been more talk of, Carlos, is he going to be a detective? Is he going to be a ranger? Is he going to be stay at patrol officer? So if he steps out of being a patrol officer, he won't work with TK as frequently. So to see them now working together is really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. So number 9 for me, it's 408 when the TK and Carlos are having tacos. This scene, like the picture of it had just been like on there for like, this was one of the like promo stills for season 4. There are multiple of them, and we were like, "Ooh, when's this gonna happen?" And I remember just being so like, it was so doom and gloom like when season 4 started, because we knew that like there was all those interviews saying like, "Oh my god, something's gonna happen with not that they were gonna break up, but like something was going to happen." The secret was very hinted at, and like people kept asking Ronan, like, what episode is this and what episode is that in? Like, when are we going to get this? And it was just like, looking back at the season, I remember how dark things were in the very beginning. Like, we were just like, oh my god, what's going to happen? But like, once we obviously got past like episode 3, or actually episode 4, we were like in the clear. So we were just so excited. And I remember getting this and being like, this is like the most adorable thing like ever. I want to think this happens like every time they're on a shift, or at least most of their shifts throughout the week. And just the fact that like, even like when like everyone shows up, because it's just like TK and Carlos at first, they're all like, you got us tacos, and like they're like like, I remember Paul said to Carlos like, you're really a golden guy, and I love that. Because he is.
Yeah.
It's just such a good scene, and like, don't hold out. I want more of these.
Right.
So mine is far away. TK and Carlos talking to Andrea. having her take control of the wedding. I love her being like, took you this long.
Yep.
God, I love this so much. I just love Andrea so much. Mama Reyes. And just I just love the seating, her being at the head of the table, them sitting on either side, just being like, and her just being so stern, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Mama Reyes is one of my favorite people ever, and I just love this scene.
Yeah. For me, my number 9 is in 409 when TK and Carlos are at Owen's for Marjan's pseudo welcome home party, and realizing they were glad that they got out of Owen and Andrea planning the wedding because Owen was being like a crazy planner for the party. Yeah, I loved it. I loved seeing them just off the clock, having time together, and still like not caring that they're in a group full of people. They're still like snuggly up, to each other, and they're not afraid to have affection and PDA.
Absolutely. So number 8, mine was in 409 at the hospital, and like TK's asleep on Carlos. Okay, I don't care how minuscule the scene was. It was literally the most adorable, and I would absolutely, hands down, rank this like here any day. Honestly, it doesn't. I don't know. Like I was like, this is the one scene where I was like, but like I love this so much. Where am I gonna put it? Like it has to. I was like top 10. Okay, yeah, but like where? Like it's like it was so small, but like I literally think about the scene like so much, like literally like so often. So I'm like, yes, like and like finally they're in the hospital, not one of them is hurt.
Yes,
Besides Marjan, of course, but
right.
I mean like TK or Carlos.
Yeah.
Mostly TK.
Yeah.
I think this should be marked as a national holiday, the day that neither boyfriend got hurt.
Right.
But we're in the hospital regardless. That'd be a long ass title. We should all get a holiday. Anyway, so mine is for 17. Different track right here. TK helps Carlos get ready for his dad's funeral because the scene is so freaking sad. And we're still reeling from, oh my freaking god, Gabriel died.
Don't remind me.
Why does everyone in like every show I've ever watched that has the name Gabriel die? Please pardon me, I'm watching Supernatural. Anyway,
oh gosh. What season are you on? Just wait. It's better.
6. I'm on 6.
Yeah,
spoilers.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about, and I will never know what you guys are talking about.
That's fair. Let me just say that
Supernatural.
I'm traumatized. And also
I mean,
Gabriel in Supernatural is one of my favorite characters. Anyhow, so I've already been traumatized like 3 times. Anywho, moving on to just back to Lone Star. I don't know. It's so sad. And you're still reeling from the shock.
Right.
But just the utmost tenderness in which TK helps Carlos and probably grounds him as much as he can. And there's so much that probably happened in that scene that you don't get because it was just glossed over. But I swear, I'm so soft for that scene.
Yeah, that was a really good scene. So for me, my number 8 is in 409, TK and Carlos in the hospital waiting room, like Katie. It's like so cute to see TK asleep on Carlos. Neither one of them hurt. For once, they're visiting somebody and not injured. I think the last time we saw this is when during Saving Grace, when Grace and Jed were in the hospital, and TK was still recovering from getting hit in the head. So we don't get to see it often. Well, we've seen it a few times with Ohm, but yeah. So I don't know. It was a really cute scene, and then just like everything around it, like TK gets to sleep, like, and he just feels so comfortable that he can just fall asleep, and Carlos is just sitting there, like so casually, just letting him sleep on it, not moving. So it was so good.
Oh yes,
yeah.
So 7, mine was in 417. When TK helps Carlos get ready for Gabriel's funeral. Okay, that makes me so sad. And like, I don't know, I almost left this off originally just for the fact of how sad it is. And I was like, okay, this is a Carlos scene, like totally. But like then I was like, okay, we can put it in. And um, I don't know. This also reminds me of another funeral scene in another show, so there's that too. It's like it's a beautifully sad scene. I think that's the only good way like make and the only way to make sense to put it. It's like beautifully sad. And I like it. I mean, as much as you can like a sad scene where your favorite dad of the show dies, like that's all I really can say. Like I like it because as much as you can like that kind of scene. So sad.
Agreed. Mine is in 418. TK finding Carlos not in bed and comforts him, and they decide to postpone the wedding. So this is high ranking for me simply because once again, it's showing the maturity and the vulnerability that I love seeing in these two. Like, yes, I will just take an IV of that. Thank you very much. That sustains me. And like obviously hate seeing the wedding postponed, but also at the same time, not only were they not ready, but like us as viewers were hardly going to be ready to like watch the wedding without any resolution of the Gabriel storyline. Yeah. It's not even like that was solved overall. Not yet. But I think we needed the time that the characters took to grieve and to come to terms with having the wedding. And so, the writers played us like a fiddle in these two scenes or in these two episodes, and you know what? I'm not even mad about it. So this was just again sad but beautiful. Gotta get the sad stuff out of the
way. For me, I put it's 412 when Carlos surprises TK with Lutu. I was like, did it have to be a lizard? But
they've got a bunny rabbit.
But it goes along with them having the other lizard beforehand, and how much TK loved it. But it was also really powerful to me for Carlos to say, look, I don't know if I will ever be ready to have children. This may be the only, animals may be the only thing we share as children. And how TK accepted that. Because I think the TK before might not have. And I think both of them still have a lot to work through regarding parenting. And I'm glad that Carlos has encouraged TK that, you're going to be a great dad someday. But Carlos doesn't know if it's going to be with him. But I love how they can talk it out. And, obviously it was also funny that, he got out, and then Carlos's little comment afterwards is like, I'm never sleeping again, am I? Just throwing the mail down.
I freaking love that line. Like, so good.
One of the best. Also, just say, pet dads and all the pet moms out there too, or pet parents, totally valid.
Oh yeah, like, totally.
My fur babies are my babies.
Yep. 100%.
I mean, I've given birth to them, and they're a little too hairy to have come from me, but they're my babies.
Yeah, 100%. So, number 6, this isn't for me, Tarlos dancing at their wedding, plus like the TK Tommy, like Tommy singing that song basically for Carlos because TK made her. It was just like I just love this scene. Like obviously we've seen dancing, that's great, but even on top of this, like with her singing, like there's just multiple things going through my head, which is first of all like I just love her like being like, this is from your husband, and being like, oh, a certain paramedic made me like sing basically, and like calling TK out by name. That was pretty funny. And like it's very like nice. It's beautiful like hearing Gina sing and like seeing that from like Tommy, and like we haven't really even gotten like any like idea that we would have ever gotten something like this. And I'm like, what can't this cast do? Because like everyone's so talented. And like it's also through this we get like obviously we see like other storylines of this through this, but we also see like obviously the honeymoon through that, and we see like we just get a lot of things through that, and I I really do like it. It's so good, and we love it.
Yeah. So for me, mine was 418 TK coming home to Carlos watching the old VHS of Gabriel and little Carlos. I know this is more a Carlos scene than it really is a Tarlos scene, but we still get them there. We get TK supporting Carlos as he basically has his whole understanding of his world and his childhood turned upside down, and him having a memory restored that he didn't even remember. So they may not have had to have done anything extremely plea in this, but honestly, just them being together and just my own bias towards this scene in general, because God, I'm so off for those three. That's where that lands for me. That would be number 6.
Yeah. My number 6 is the same one that Grace had. I'm going to try to say this without getting choked up. I don't think it's going to work.
We got you.
I'm glad that Carlos was able to find this because I'm of the era that we didn't have video cameras when I was growing up. And I don't have a lot of pictures with my dad. And it's been about 2 years since he passed away. So I'm really glad. So I think that's why it ranked so high for me. It's just because TK was getting to witness Carlos seeing something that not everybody gets lucky to have. And so, yeah, that's why it landed there for me, I think.
Yeah.
Understandable. I think that's the reason that this whole thing hit harder for some people too, for same reasons you just said,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. And I'm I will never get rid of my iPhone because I have a voicemail on there for my dad. Yeah. So I totally get it. So I'm hang on to that stuff.
That's the stuff that you save on 3 different, USB sticks, and yeah. I get you. There are things on my phone that I never want to lose either, and some things that I've lost that I can't get back. So, electronics are certainly good for something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. So now we're in the top 5. Yay.
Get in
there. So my 5 is in 418 when Carlos goes home after Owen had basically rescued him, I guess, in a sense, from that whole situation. Yeah. And so he goes home to TK, and Carlos basically proposes to TK, be like, if you're still free Saturday, let's get married. I was not expecting that. Obviously nobody was. We didn't know this was gonna happen. And the fact that we got another proposal literally a year to the date later was literally perfect. And it was so great because obviously we knew we were getting a wedding. We had seen the pictures, we knew it was happening. Either way, they had been saying all season, all things lead to a wedding, and I had no idea what that meant, and I was trying to decode that literally all season because that's just who I am. And then it was just really sweet, and I love that scene so much. I think about that scene so often. It is so good, and Carlos saying basically he's never been more sure about anything, and I'm oh, my heart. Oh, so good.
Mine is the exact same one. Because there was no better place to put this. It was just perfect at number 5. Top 5. I love that Owen was the one to basically smack some sense in him before he made a mistake he would never come back from. Not realistically, that's for sure. And then Carlos proposing to him again. I kind of love that they both proposed to each other in a way. TK's the first one was like, let's get married. And then Carlos is like, okay, so are you free? At the exact same time. TK wouldn't drop any plans he'd made to go get married to him. I don't know. I'm saying this so much right now. I'm so soft for these guys.
Yeah.
We all are. They're just I love them. I love everything about this scene. I can't even form a coherent thought beyond that. Just Perfection.
Yeah. I know I'd rank mine a little lower, but for me, I'd put in this scene or this spot, 417 when TK's helping Carlos get ready for the funeral for Gabriel. Again, this one and my last ranking, I think it was definitely TK getting to see a side of Carlos that Carlos doesn't often show, and Carlos letting him in. And that's pretty powerful. And also it was really tough on Carlos, but I was glad that he had TK by his side. And I think Carlos was definitely struggling with the whole, well, now you're the man of the family kind of situation, where he's the only son of, the family, and now his dad's gone, and his dad was taken away tragically. And I know, I think Rafa said things like, Carlos has lost a big piece of him, and that's really going to impact him moving forward. So, yeah, I really love this scene, and I know that they didn't have a conversation, but I feel like it didn't need words. What the ranger was saying kind of to the monologue over it was really good. And I think it was kind of told its own story.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes. So number 4, mine is in 416 when Carlos comes home from work and TK tells him about the Huntingtons, which actually this is all our scenes for this one that I really like.
Yeah.
I just realized that as I started talking. I absolutely love the scene, and if we were ranking by category, this might be the number 1 or number 2.
Yeah.
Because it is such a good scene. If you I don't know how to describe it, but it's just such a good scene because there's so many things in this, because obviously I think this goes with TK's past, so obviously now he has Carlos, and TK says we can basically insinuating that you can call it the wedding if because he doesn't want to be a burden to Carlos, to be someone he has to take care of. And then it almost makes me think that in his past that obviously any of his former partners were made him feel like he was a burden, stuff like that. So I think that's very just powerful that obviously he has Carlos, and Carlos would literally take care of him with no questions asked. And there's just so much dialogue in the scene that's sweet. And then also there's that moment where TK's well, you might have to give me baths, and Carlos is that doesn't sound too bad. And that totally wasn't what TK wanted to hear, but it was very funny just for the audience, so it didn't get too dark because it was already there. And I loved Carlos being if you forget things, I'll just introduce I'm Carlos, you're TK, and we're soulmates. And I melted this scene. It is just it is emotionally melting. I love it so much. I don't even know what to say. This is literally comfort, but in a weird way, emotional comfort.
Right.
When you want to cry, you watch this scene.
Yeah. As said, this is all of ours.
Yeah.
And Katie said it all perfectly, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I just love in here, just the emphasis on, even before they take their vows, the in sickness and in health part of the traditional ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's being shown here.
Yeah.
Because, that's what Mo said, soulmates, honestly, is what any decent people do, but that's beside the point. I just love them being referred to as soulmates. I love the joke breaks the tension.
Mm-hmm.
I just everything about this scene, I think they handled it really well.
Yeah, I do too. Because it's such a building scene too. You see, TK starts out just that personal panic of, oh my God, do I have it? Do I have the shakes? Am I just seeing things?
God, yeah, he was testing.
Going to trying to blow it off as oh, I'm fine, and then I'm not fine, and then Carlos being okay, and then they start talking, and then Carlos kind of trying to process as TK's talking, and then you see the buildup of TK doesn't want to be a burden to him. TK doesn't want him to make this choice and then all of a sudden regret it. so he's giving him an out, and then the I might not remember you, like I might not remember who you are. And then, the whole like Carlos doing what any decent human being would do, was be like, well, then I'll just have to introduce myself to you every day. And I was like, oh my God, I cried through this whole scene because it was so good. Yeah, and I get it. Like, a lot of people have those fears, especially those who have chronic illnesses and illnesses that, I have a friend who ALS runs in their family. And there's a good chance that he and his brother will both get it, or have it, and it will manifest as they get older. And, they were really worried, but like they have children and they're not going to let it stop them. And I think this was the moment of like TK's like kind of letting it stop his life. And I think Owen even said it in the episode earlier about, you have to live life and, don't let this define you right now. Yeah, I love it. I love the scene. I will watch it over and over again. And I love that we got like Carlos saying that he's soulmates or that they're soulmates. And yeah, so good, but so emotionally like powerful.
Yeah. So number 3 for me, this is in 402 with the little night scene we got with like, obviously this is after like they like TK had went to see Iris, which Carlos doesn't know about, but like, and she basically said that he's a hot mess. Obviously TK is very much like freaking out or like just analyzing everything about that conversation. And so like TK's like totally like, having a moment, and Carlos is just like, what the heck is going on with you? And then so like, they have this conversation, and TK's like, so you don't think a hot mess? And Carlos is like, oh no, I think you're a hot mess, but you're my hot mess. Like, that melts me. Like, I love that scene so freaking much. Like, I knew this was going to be like number 2 or 3. I just did, and I love it. Like, this is like the scene where I would literally replay this because like I remember this happened and I was like, oh my God. I remember my reaction when the scene aired because I was like, oh my God. I was totally freaking out. I mean, I still forgot about it. It's just so good.
Mine was, let's see, the cake scene was a deleted scene, right?
Yes.
Okay, so mine was the deleted Tarlos wedding scene, where Carlos smushes cake into TK's face. I just love that because that's such a lighthearted thing to do. It's very cute. There's not really much to say about it. Obviously, it was a deleted scene, so we don't even have much surrounding it other than it's just didn't quite make the final cut. But in most ordinary circumstances, I don't actually approve of generally like smashing the cake in the face, that kind of thing. Like I wouldn't like it done in my wedding, but with them, it was cute. And like obviously they didn't mind it. So I don't know, I'm soft.
Yeah. My number 3 is in 404 when TK saves Carlos and the whole scene afterwards in the ambulance, the Biden ambulance. A lot of reasons why I think this ranked high for me. TK saving his heart and the whole conversation they had, and TK working with Gabriel and Gabriel believing in TK, and then even the power of the video that Carlos found earlier that we had talked about, how he said he would always find him, and yet, here he is, he was finding him, and it was like big. Like for me, that scene hit really hard, even more so now after seeing that video of young 100%. Carlos. Yeah, and just like the whole like then Gabriel joking about like your mom and Iris are already at the hospital decorating your room and things like that. Like it was so like it was good, but it was like so relieving to see after everything that Carlos went through, the 2 people that he could count on the most were there. And
yes, I love it. So number 2 for me, this is like the cake scene. Carlos smushes the cake in TK's face. I just think it's super cute because like it's literally like we're at the wedding scene, and then it's just funny because like Carlos is like, TK, now don't smash shit in my face. And then Carlos smashes in his face, which Rafa just said the other day that wasn't in the script, that he did that. So Ronan and TK were surprised at the same time. And
Oh my God.
that. Rafa, I love you for doing that.
Yes.
Rafa, you're an angel among
The
men.
content. Like,
So
thank you.
So that's like a ad lib, Rafa. So that Ronan reaction and that smug look on Rafa's face is actually more Rafa than it is Carlos.
I mean, both, but yes. I love it so much knowing that even more. Like, I already love the scene, but like knowing that tidbit, I'm like, I love it even more. And it's just funny because like TK would do that to Carlos, and Carlos just be like, haha, I'm gonna do it to you and you're not gonna see it coming.
I love it.
It was good. And I just love I just love TK be like, I want a divorce.
Yes.
Yeah, that was so funny.
And then Iris, annulment's cheaper.
I know, that was so funny. And Marsha's reaction,
Like, oh.
Marsha's reaction was like, oh, okay, you said that. It was funny, and I really, when they dropped it, I probably rewatched that like 100 times in one sitting.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
And in my book, all those deleted scenes, I just add on to my version of the
Yeah.
episode, and they're in there.
For me, it was Tarlos dancing at the wedding. And Tommy singing the song. For me, for this scene, it was more just Tarlos dancing because fuck yeah. Obviously Tommy did a great job with the song. That part was very cool, but for the most part for me, it was just them dancing and also like the intent behind the song and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're solidly in the wedding stuff right now. Number 2. But it was great.
Yeah. The deleted cake scene was definitely my number 2. We definitely needed some lightheartedness. I understand why it was cut, time's sake, but also now that I know that, because I had not heard that yet, but what Katie shared earlier, I was like, okay, that makes a little more sense. But I also feel like that was not the Carlos that was really at the wedding. He was there, but again, he was fully ready, but I just don't know if it fit the situation, having lost Gabriel and trying to make the most of his, best day of his life without his dad. So I just don't know if that would fit in. I don't know, but yeah, I loved this scene. I think it's amazing. I think it's so cute, so needed. Those two are so have so much good chemistry together. Ronan and Rafa. So they play so well together. And then everybody around it and watching them, yeah, it was really good. I loved it.
Yeah.
So
And then obviously the top scene,
which surprise, we all have in common.
I think this has happened
yeah. I think every year, our number 1 has always been the same.
Mm-hmm. I think all of our rankings, I'm pretty sure
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, surprise, our number 1 scene is, I wonder which one. I wonder. I don't know. It might be something you guys never expect.
Never at all. Nope. You guys never even noticed. We're actually doing season 3 now.
Right.
We backtracked. But obviously, all jokes aside, it is the wedding, the vows, the everything. My heart, that scene, I could literally
everything
rewatch
we've been waiting 4 seasons for.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and they did it so well. It was beautifully done.
Yeah.
I love Paul officiating. That if they had some random person officiating, it probably wouldn't have hit as hard. Their vows would still been the same, and they would have been perfect. But just because I like it because Paul knows them. And also, if you think about it, Paul's been there with them since literally the beginning. We got scenes with that one scene with Tarlos and Paul, so I feel like he's been there since the start. Yeah. And I want to think he was that go-to friend, so it's honestly perfect that
for sure
he officiated, and I just love like everything they say, like everything TK said, everything Carlos said. It was such a beautiful moment, and like if you watch it back and like facial expressions, like their gestures, it was so them.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful, and literally I don't know if anything could ever top this ever. Probably can't.
No.
Honestly, doesn't matter what happens. It will always be number one, and I love it so much. I could literally talk about it for like literally like every last breath I have. Like I love
devote
this
an
scene.
entire another podcast series to this scene alone.
I could do it. I could do it. If anybody could do it, I would be me.
Yeah. I love this scene so freaking much. It's what we've waited 4 seasons for. I'm just what's that, number 6 time I've said that this episode? I'm just so soft with these boys. They're finally here through all obstacles. They made it. They're now husbands. And also just, obviously I love Paul being the officiant of it. Just the representation that happened in this scene made me so happy. A Black trans man officiating the wedding of a gay interracial interfaith couple that also all of them are in 2 of the most macho alpha male jobs
in Texas.
And in Texas. Like the amount of representation and amount of barriers.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. I love this, and obviously my pride spirit is all for this. I'm just I love this so much.
Yeah.
It could not have been better.
I know. I don't know what else I could say. This is amazing. Like, it was awesome. Like, and it's so on point. Like, Carlos had his vows memorized. TK had them written down. And TK joking about like, oh, you memorized them, didn't you? Like,
I mean, we all were TK, and we're like, he memorized them. Of course he did. It's Carlos we're talking about.
We know that he rehearsed them for like 4 hours in the mirror before coming.
Yeah, this is so good. So, and like Grace said, so powerful with Paul officiating, and yeah, I mean, I think he has been pretty much there since day one. I mean, I remember in was it Studs in 105, I think, when
105.
Carlos is standing there waiting for them, or TK and Carlos is waiting for Paul to come out of the firehouse, and Paul's like, so I guess he told you about me, Han? And Carlos is like, that you're straight? Yeah, I don't judge. I was just like, from that moment on, I'm like,
I love him.
So much has happened to them, but they've stayed pretty close, and I love that. So yeah, this is so good. And then TK's like, we both ended our vows with heart.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
We could all talk about this for so long.
I think we could, but we probably should get on. We have so many honorable mentions too. Like, this is the most Tarlos season we've had thus far, and I'm so here for it.
It makes me so happy. Makes my heart happy. So like there were so many honorable mentions, even if it wasn't like the happiest of Tarlos. We still have to mention it.
Oh my god, I just looked at how many we have. I was like, oh, that was fun. And then DJ said honorable mentions. I'm like, fuck, no, we're not.
Right.
We were talking about I do not underachieve.
Oh my god, that's true. Guys, Katie puts all these lists together. Her, but also Katie, what the hell?
That because it's so true. I was like, I overachieve when it comes to this. But anyways, let's get through it.
Yeah, we probably should.
So obviously there was like in 403 when they were meeting with the detective. Obviously that wasn't the happiest Tarlos, but it was still Tarlos nonetheless. Then there was like when Carlos called TK at the end of the episode. Obviously not the happy. Yes, but it was there. And then obviously there was Tarlos in 406 with Owen. that was like at the end of the episode with like Owen shows up and they have dinner and then he's like, so the wedding. And then for 10, like Tarlos at like that cancer event that Owen was hosting, and then like for 11, alternate universe scene, because they were still technically together, even in Mateo's fever dream, whatever you want to call that. For 12, like when they're both talking to their parents about the whole like kids thing and like that kind of coming up. I loved that because it was like them separate, but like it was like their parents like just being like, okay, like let's just talk about this. And then 14 or 413 with the pudding fiasco, Carlos suspect.
Oh my gosh.
Or 14 with TK mentioning like, oh, that's romantic, rotating your wife's tires, and Carlos looking at him like, dude, that's no.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't doing that. And
No.
then obviously, like, when Owen's in the hospital, and then like them talking about the mystery, and like TK and Carlos just standing next to each other, like, and like TK's like, yeah, it wasn't that hard to figure out. And like, and also like during like the when Owen literally like had the poison because he obviously was giving her mouth to mouth, and like TK was all worried, and Carlos was rubbing his back, and then there was 417 when Gabriel shows up at the loft. TK is just there, but it's mostly a Gabriel Carlos scene. But it's still Tarlos. Then there's 417 with Carlos thinks like he's having lunch with TK, but really Mama Reyes is there, and it's like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, wait a second.
She's having lunch.
Oh, wait a damn minute. That's what that gave off. Carlos scene with Carlos's sisters like after the funeral. Okay, that was so sad, but like Carlos said Carlos's sisters, what more could we ask for? I mean, maybe under different circumstances, but you know, there's that. And obviously, like going along with the wedding, obviously there was like the rehearsal dinner, which was great. Then 418, like the honeymoon, like a glimpse of it. I'm like glad we got a glimpse of it. Like people are like, okay, 417 is going to be the wedding, 418 is going to be a honeymoon. I'm like, guys, you really realize this isn't a fan fiction, and we're probably not going to get any of the honeymoon, or maybe we'll get like a little glimpse, which we did, which I'm glad we at least got that. And then obviously there's the deleted scene, so there was like them like arguing about like what their name's gonna be. Like it was literally like Marjan, her boyfriend, and then like Nancy Mateo, and then Paul and Asha, and like they're all talking about like what their last names would be. And Tika's like, oh yeah, we're not changing them anytime soon.
Right.
Like, which I like because like they can decide later. And especially like if they have kids, they're gonna want to all have the same last name. So like that's it's good. And then like the TK scene with Owen and Carlos with Andrea, like the deleted scene when they're getting ready for the wedding, especially like what Andrea said to Carlos about like when Carlos asked Gabriel to be his best man, that was like the happiest she ever seen him. And it's just like, oh, that makes me so sad.
Yeah, that was a really good scene. I wish they hadn't cut that, but I also feel like it would have really, like, we obviously knew that Carlos was still hesitant, but I'm glad they went through with the wedding and he said, you know, to Andrea that it was the best day of his life. And
right.
Gabriel was there. I think it was really hard, and I sent it to you guys today. It was like way too soon, but I'm like, I'm gonna say it anyway. So the other show that Benito is on is called With Love, and his son on that show got married, and so he got to be there. So somebody posted a clip of it and said, well, at least he made it to one of his son's weddings. And I was like, and then Benito retweeted it and said, like, don't cry. And I was like, too late. And I start crying with the emojis.
I was like, okay.
Too soon.
I was like, at least he's like not like another character like Gabriel, so you don't see him in like a cowboy hat, and then I would really like I was crying, I was tearing up, but I would be sobbing if like we got like And
At
Gabriel
that, I'd be doing
2.0.
full-fledged edits of like putting him in the wedding and just like
Photoshop, yeah, for sure.
Photoshop.
I already want to do that.
Fair.
Therapy, yeah.
I'm gonna need therapy after this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fox, we're sending you a giant ass bill.
If I ever meet Ronan
know.
or Rafa, I'm
Yeah.
literally making a mock therapy bill, making them sign it. Somebody did that for another show. They're like, okay, well, if we get this scene, I'm gonna bring my therapy bill and make them sign it.
Yeah, get a printout and say therapy bill, and then, that would be cute.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I love our Tarlos.
I know.
Tarlos.
So fun.
I know.
I'm glad you guys joined us with this because I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to hear what people think their top 5 are.
I know. I need to make a template of it so everyone can share theirs. I really want to know. And I think it's wild because the other day Ronan said that the season actually was 8 weeks. And I was like,
yeah, I heard that too. I was like, wow.
People were saying that. I'm like, guys, you got to really let go of the 8 weeks. And I'm like, okay, how did all that stuff happen in 8 weeks? How you're telling me that Marjan got literally shot in the gut and she literally recovered between an 8 week in less than an 8 week time frame? What the heck? Also, I mean, it's not that surprising because your number Chim was back to work in a couple episodes after getting rebar and stuff. I'm like, what the heck? And there was just so much that happened in this season where I'm like, how the hell did this happen in 8 weeks? That's I really thought we were gonna throw that out the window because that's just I feel like we're living in another dimension because that's literally not possible. Well, whatever. We'll let it slide.
We'll let them keep their fantasy that this happened in 8 weeks.
Because bullshit. That Marshall would have had to recover in at least 6 weeks. Maybe longer.
Yeah. Even light duty should be 4 weeks.
Even Carlos, there's no way you recovered in literally 2 seconds.
Yeah, still mad that we didn't get enough of his recovery.
I know, even just a conversation about it. I'm
any more than a conversation would have taken too much time. Well,
he only joked about it.
Oh well. We still got a lot. This season gave us so much. I
were fed.
Mad at anything.
We're fed breakfast, lunch, dinner,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and dessert.
We are all now just full, but we can never get enough. Gift that keeps on giving.
And we get another season to talk about. So amen to that. We get a 5th season.
Y'all are stuck with us. We're here as long as they are.
Yes.
Yeah, this is. And you know what? I'm glad we're here with all of our listeners, and I wouldn't have wanted to be here with anyone else other than you two.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
Doing this with you guys, best thing.
This is the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Damn, that's just the episode for Sappy. It's just Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and everywhere you can get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would, of course, mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to join our Discord server. The link will be in the description of this podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at Tarlos on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram, and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter.
Bye. Bye.